Hello, everybody who's coming in. Thank you guys for joining us. We are doing a webinar today about connecting with book clubs. And I'm Danielle, the design director. I'm here with Becky Hilliker, our executive editor, who I have to bribe with sweets to be on these calls, but it's worth it. Um, we're here with two of our fabulous authors, Glenn R. Miller and Randy Susan Meyers. So we'll introduce them shortly, but just so you guys know, as always, there is a Q&A feature at the bottom. So if at any point during the discussion you guys have a question, just type it in there and we'll try to call them out during the webinar. So, all right, I'm going to share my screen. Don't worry, I will let them talk at some point.
No, don't believe her.
Okay, so we are going to start with Glenn R. Miller. He's the author of the book Doorman Wanted, which you see here. And we are excited to announce his upcoming second novel with us, Rough Cuts, which will be out in September of 2026. He holds a master's degree from Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism, has worked on television soap operas and game shows, and served as a CBS affiliate and public television producer. You can see his website there, some of his awards. That list might be longer, I'm not sure. We're going to look at his website a little bit later. But yeah, and our next guest is drum roll.
Great. The wonderful Randy Susan Meyers. She's the internationally best-selling author of 5 novels, including her recent, and in my opinion, the best, The Many Mothers of Ivy Puddingstone. All of her books explore domestic drama, societal issues, and cultural nuances, which I hear have been informed by her years working with community and governmental agencies. But really, she gained the most insight into family and other politics during 4 years bartending in a small Boston neighborhood pub. And I suspect she has lots of other stories from those years as well.
All right, so you are allowed to speak now. So welcome, Glenn and Randy. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here. All right, we always start by asking our authors who come for their elevator pitch of their book, so that this is helpful for our authors because you meet somebody new and sometimes you're not even thinking, oh no, I gotta talk about this book again. I thought that was 6 months ago or however many months ago. So we're gonna start with Glenn. Can you give us a 60-second elevator pitch for Doorman Wanted?
I can do it in less than that. It's a short elevator ride. Doorman Wanted is about an idealistic young man who inherits a vast sum of wealth, including an Upper East Side condominium building. When he enters the building for the first time, there is confusion. The woman behind the counter assumes that he is there for the open doorman position. She hands him an application form. He fills it out and he gets the position. So now the person who is the young man who is opening doors is also the secret occupant of the penthouse unit of the building that he owns. Broadly, I say the book is about the perceptions and misperceptions of wealth within our society, intended to be a humorous look at that topic. And the log line that I use for the book is Henry Franken has a problem with money. He has too much of it.
Very nice. All right, Randy, let's hear yours.
Well, first, I have to say I'm pretty shocked that Henry Franken and I have the same problem. I mean, that is just fantastic. Okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit as I always do with my log line by glancing. The Many Mothers of Ivy Puddingstone is a story about what happens to a woman when saving the world collides with raising children, all while living in a marriage where her former loves are always in the room, figuratively and in reality. In a nutshell, if Forrest Gump, This Is Us, and the Big Chill had a love child and raised her in a political collective called Puddingstone, it would be this story.
There you go. Snappy.
I'm
Like
very snobby.
Yeah. Love it.
that. I like that. Okay, well, so today, I mean, we could pick both of your brains on so many topics, but we've asked you both here today because we want to talk about book clubs in particular. Our authors are always interested in And they're also kind of, one of the last like really organic kind of bastions of readers where you find that, they're usually like neighborhood book clubs or other things like that. And so sometimes they're kind of hard to find. And authors like to know how are people who are having success with book clubs, how did it happen? But why even go after them in the first place? I mean, doesn't it take more time and effort than just throwing an ad on social media? Like, what's the payoff for you? So I'm going to direct that first to Randy, and then Glenn can follow up.
Well, I think the very first payoff is fun. These are wonderful women and men. I have been in groups with men and women all over the world. But I'd say the number one thing, even though I dread it every time, and I say to my husband, oh, I have to go to a book club. He goes, you always like it. Like, no, I don't. And then I come out and I say, yeah, it was fun. These are bright, wonderful women who have a lot to say. You learn a lot about your own book. I always say after you finish a book, you don't own it anymore. The readers do. And they mirror back to you stuff that you go like, huh, really? Um, they talk, they recommend, they have a very long life. So from each book club, you got to figure it's going out to a lot more readers. They give me passion and they feed you really, really well when you're in person. I mean, although sometimes they say to you things like, well, if you come, we'll feed you. And I do want to say, I do get to eat at other times, but thank you very much. So I could go on forever because I could also tell you later the worst book clubs I've ever gone to because those are funny, but I'll just leave it with that. They bring a lot of passion into my life.
All right, Glenn, what's the payoff for you since this is it does involve more of your time than just putting out an ad out there.
Well, I totally agree with Randy. By definition, book clubs are really careful readers. And I love hearing the thoughts and feedback of that particular group of people. Um, the I recently, I think I'm past the point of 60 book clubs now with Doorman Wanted. And a couple of times people have asked me, don't you get tired of them? And I said, the second I walk in to a book club, I'm energized. I totally enjoy it, just like Randy said. These are wonderful people who want to talk about my book. I mean, how can I not like that opportunity? Part of your question, though, I think, Becky, yeah, it does take up time, but I really see this as grassroots marketing. It's working with book clubs tend to be uh, groups of 8, 10, 12. I've also done book clubs as large as they're typically merged book clubs, but merged book clubs as large as 30 or 40 people. In fact, I think I sent one of the photos of one of the larger groups. And the way I reckon it, um, this is a better payoff than calling independent bookstores and saying, can I come in and set up a little card table with a small pile of books? These are active, involved readers. And to me, it is worth every single minute of my time to attend these.
All right.
Yeah. Um, okay. So speaking of photos, you both sent in some photos. So I'm gonna open this up and ask you to share a little bit. Everybody will see a little bit of what Glenn was mentioning in the groups, and we're gonna get to specifics later, but we just want to hear any fun experiences or share anything like that while we go through them. So we're gonna start with Glenn's. So anything to share about this one?
Yeah, I have done a lot of the book clubs that I've done have been in condominium buildings and townhome associations, etc. And I live in downtown Minneapolis, and I think I've covered about half of the condominiums in condominium buildings in the area. These are largely social groups. This was a combination of a condominium building's social group as well as book club. So there were people who were simply looking to be entertained, and then others who had read the book and came with really good questions. So I find the condominium buildings to be fertile ground for these types of activities.
Awesome. Here's the next one. Another
There's
condo.
another one. Yeah, there's downtown Minneapolis. And at this point, I think these are people I didn't know. And they reached out via my website. There's a contact page on my website. I'm sure Randy has the same thing. And they say, would you mind coming to our book club? We selected your book for next month's or, January's book club or whatever it is. And I am a cheap book club date. I say yes to almost every single request. So I had a wonderful evening. As Randy says, they feed you well. I barely have time to eat because I'm busy chatting and answering their good questions. But again, the condo buildings are terrific for these activities.
We have a question exactly about that subject. Irene Latham, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, says, Glenn, are you pinpointing condo groups because of your book's subject matter, or are they reading all sorts of books?
Great.
Any correlation?
That's a great question. I hadn't even thought of that aspect. Yeah, we don't in Minneapolis. We don't have what are called doormen. That is really kind of a Chicago or New York thing. We do have these tall buildings, and they have concierges. They have a different title here. No, I think they're reaching out because, knock on wood, it's been well reviewed, both in our city newspaper, as well as I think the word of mouth has been good. The book has been out for more than a year and a half at this point, and I continue to get as many requests as I did a year ago. So my guess is this is just kind of a word of mouth. Sometimes there will be people in these groups who are members of two or three different book clubs, and they'll come up to me and say, would you come to another book club I'm in? And of course, the answer is yes. So it just kind of feeds on itself.
All right. You have one more here.
Oh, this was a fun one down in Arizona. There was a group of people who had read the book. This is a community, it's called Rio Verde, and it is primarily comprised of expats from Minnesota, those winter birds who go down to Arizona. And they discovered that the woman kneeling in the middle is my sister, and that she was related to this book that they had read about in the Minnesota Star Tribune. So, anyway, we were going down to visit my sister, and she reached out to them and said, "Hey, he's coming down." And so, anyway, this was kind of an ad hoc group down in Arizona. And it was a wonderful evening that we had. I had more darn fun. Normally, for something like that, I would do a Zoom book club. I've done about 10% of my appearances have been via Zoom.
Awesome. We'll talk about Zoom meetings as well. All right, now we're going to Randy. Randy, you sent in so many pictures, and luckily you sent in this great collage. So we'll start here. Do you want to give us a really, just talk, or
Well,
go to the next
I'm
one? I don't want you to have to run down the entire list here, but people
no,
see.
but I made this collage for my website because I have a place where I post book event pictures, and people really love to see themselves online. And it's just my way of saying thank you. Also, it's like a fun thing for me to do. And this just shows the absolute differences in from very large groups to much smaller groups. And I can see when I traveled I'll point out one in particular, the one here, if you can see it. I don't know if my pointing helps, with me in the middle and a woman with an orange shirt next to me. Well, that was a library group that I really found wonderful down south. And they had me for two books. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, you get X amount of people for my next book. And if you want, I will come down. And they did. And I went because I was on a tour, and it was just pure pleasure. Library book clubs are some of the most fun. these are some dedicated, wonderful people. And you can see also that I have some senior centers here. I've done a
Oh,
lot of
yes,
senior
I have
centers,
that
and that
here.
oh, here we go. So seniors rock, it's true. So I have had this was on the right, I believe, is one that was in Plantina, Florida, and there was a couple of hundred people, and they reached out to have me be their author at their book club annual luncheon, which is always fun. And they don't pay me. I have to say, I use my own dime to fly, and that was fine because that's a lot of people. And on the other side, the charitable, I do a lot of charitable events, and only once have they paid me because they just insisted. If they do try to pay, I usually say put it back to the occasion. And those are also very good for my own feelings of self-worth that, okay, not just sitting alone in sweatpants reading and writing, I'm also giving back. And my husband is in this picture. He looks like one of the seniors, but he is my secret weapon. He will go along and chat up everybody when he is, and you, one of you knows how unchatty shy and shy he really is. So having a spouse who will schlep along with you is a big help.
Let's see what else we got. Events with other authors here. I had to throw in the photo with the Koehler Books authors on the right there, which our own
And
Becky Hilliker was even present at.
doing events with other authors is also great because everybody draws in their own particular crowd. And from that, you meet other authors. Now, often you might not get a lot of sales, they might all go to another author, but it is just one more way to get the word out there and to gather book clubs. And also, it's fun. Boston is very rich, as I know Minneapolis is in authors, and so we do a lot of things together. And we are never jealous of each other, not even for a second. It's amazing.
But I think it's also important, when you're doing events like this and meeting other authors, you start to belong to a community. And that's really, really important because you never know. You may even just make a connection at one of these and you think it's just a fleeting connection, but down the line, you may end up reconnecting with them and finding ways to cross promote your books. And it's kind of like, tagging on social media or things like that. Even if it gets one more set of eyeballs, why not?
Mhm.
Um,
Well, I can talk more about this later, but you reminded me, Becky, of a project that I did with about 15 other authors where we put a cookbook together and each of us sent out to all of our book clubs, encouraging other people to bring the other, us into their book clubs, and we were contributing to a charitable organization in Boston. So doing projects together can be really fun too.
Yeah, let's see. I think I have one more. Here you go. You talked a little bit about libraries before, but
Libraries, mwah, chef's kiss. And again, if anybody writes and says, can you do something for some local charity? And I often will put together a basket, not as pretty as I might think, but whatever, the best I could do. And I always include a book club visit. So sometimes what I'll do is I will contribute. For instance, I did this and it brought me a lot back for the Authors Against Anti-Semitism. Asked me to donate. I donated a book club visit and as many books as your book club held, up to
wow.
15, up to
Yeah.
15. And then I ended up doing a book club for 30 people. So a lot of them, I don't know if they shared the books. And that woman, one of the women who bid on it, schlepped to Tampa where I just did an event. So it again, they become very attached, and you become attached to them.
Yeah, I think that was our last. Oh yeah, this. So you put this together. We're not going to go over this whole thing. I was thinking of how I can share this with people, and we might send it out to everybody who's on the call because I think it's a nice little bullet point list. It's got some online habits. We'll talk about all of this, but I just wanted to show Randy put this together, and I thought it was great, so I just added it at the end here. But
Oh,
yes,
thank you.
we'll talk about more specifics. So, and not everybody, if people want to take a screenshot now or anything, they can, but we'll send this out so you don't have to. Okay.
we are monitoring the Q&A as well, by the way.
Yes.
So we're going to be working those into your questions in, just to let
Mhm.
you go.
Yep. All right. Well, I gotta say this is fun. I think this was the first. No, we did one with a couple middle grade authors where they talked about school visits, and I think we had some photos for that one too. But it is always great to see, your book out in the wild and people physically holding it. Because I think our marketing team focuses a lot on social media, which we will talk about. We got to ask the social media questions. But you guys have talked about why, you give book clubs a chance, and so it is great to see these pictures. Thank you for sending them in. Okay, I'm gonna start with the big question that we get all the time. I'm gonna start with let's start with Glenn. How do you find book clubs? Everybody asks, did you go to the condo groups? How did you find them? Did they find you? How does that work?
This is going to be a really unsatisfying answer, and I apologize for that. Um, they find me. I can't give a five-step formula in terms of connecting with book clubs. I ask them how they find me, and they say, "Well, I read something about your book, or somebody recommended you to our book club," and so there's probably 100 different paths to get to book clubs, and I can just briefly describe my path because it's the only one I know. When I signed on with Koehler Books, John Koehler very wisely said, find a publicist. All authors need to work with somebody who helps get the word out. And on the website, a publicist was recommended, Smith Publicity. They happened to be the one that I reached out to. I liked the conversation we had. And so I worked with them. It was a wonderful experience. I worked with somebody by the name of Andrea at Smith Publicity. And I said, here's how I define a home run from my end is I would love to forget about national press. I'm not going to get it. But I would love to focus on the local press. And she said, okay, that's what I'll do. And she was able to get Doorman Wanted in front of the books editor of the Minnesota Star Tribune. He happened to love the book. He gave it a very good review. The review came out in the Sunday book section 2 days prior to pub date. Could not have been better timing.
Yeah, for real.
And the book took off from there. Within a week, there were 700 holds on the book at the Hennepin County Library, Minneapolis County, which just I was able to see a direct correlation. Sales shot up as well. So it was from that people started reaching out to me, and it has just steamrolled from there. So my only tip is for authors is work with a publicist. Otherwise, I just think even the best books, the best titles out there are going to get lost in the million books that are published every year, unless there is somebody actively, regularly pushing that book out there. Now, the relationship with my publicist stopped. The contract lasted through, I think it was 3 weeks after the publication date for some cleanup or whatever.
Someone's asking when it started. Can you also say when you started?
Yeah, yeah, good question. So I immediately reached out to Smith Publicity upon signing the contract. I signed the contract, I think it was 14 months before pub date. Now, the active work with that publicity firm, that the active work really started probably about 4 months before, 5 months. That was around when the ARCs came out, and that's when Andrea really hit the pavement and started making the calls and the follow-up calls, et cetera. But with Rough Cuts, again, as soon as the contract was signed, I reached out to a publicity firm to move forward and got in the hopper. I wanted to make sure it felt good with the relationship. It's a different publicist this time because Smith has changed their strategic focus. From what I've heard, they're focused primarily on nonfiction. I only write fiction. So that was my process? Working with a publicist. And fortunately, the reviewers liked the book.
I gotta say that we recommend people work with a publicist who have it within their budget. It can be expensive. I think Glenn, in this case, you couldn't have asked for more of a home run with that write-up. And like you said, you saw the literal return on investment almost immediately. So that was
Yeah. And by the way, when that review came out, Hennepin County had 0 copies of Doorman Wanted.
Hmm.
Uh, they now have, I think it's 40 copies as well as
Wow.
90
Yeah.
ebook copies or whatever. So that was a really important step for me. Um, yeah.
Awesome. All right, Randy, you want to answer the question? What was the question? The question was, how do you find book clubs? Do they come to you? Do you go to them? What would your answer be?
I go to the club store and pick out my favorite.
I almost believed you.
Everything that Glenn said is true. I've had a lot of help from my publicists over the years. It's certainly done a lot, but I will give a slightly more organic answer because not everybody can afford a publicist and not everybody can do all that. So I'm going to go back. This is actually my 6th novel, my 7th if I count one I co-authored. Going back to my first one, I listened to my agent's advice, which was this. She said, reach out to everybody you've ever known before your book comes out. Craft a letter. Pretend you're having a wedding or a bar mitzvah or a sweet 16 for whomever. Start collecting all the addresses. And so I started collecting addresses, like including actual physical addresses, because I sent out notes. And it took me a long time. And this is something you can afford. And I used white pages. I did my old camp friends. I did every cousin. I did every guy I'd ever dated. And that was a nice long list, so that really helped. Because people are excited to know somebody who's written a book. You know, we feel like we're being very pushy, and we are, but it's like, oh my God, and other authors aren't as excited about that you've written a book because they want their book to be out there. But your third cousin once removed. So that was the very first thing I did, was get together a list of hundreds and hundreds of addresses and write personal notes on postcards that I had put together. And some of my book clubs came from there. My first book club came from a fellow author who hadn't published yet, and they begin to grow one after another. If you do well and you're smile, honey, and you're warm and honest, they're excited to have an author there. And I always am very, very grateful. So that's one of the things, is to make yourself available and do things. The other thing that you do is let people know that you're available for book clubs. There is no way that you can. I have never written to a book club and said, could you please have me? That feels strange to me. But one book club often leads to another. And the best part is that the same book club that has you for book one will often have you for all your books. And you become like old friends. Other things that I've done is put together. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
Is it backwards on your screen?
Oh, that looks good.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it shows as so I was starting to put together recipes for my kids who are grown, for them to have for, all the family recipes. And at a certain point I realized, I was putting a lot of effort for them. Let me do more with this. And so I actually put together a cookbook that's filled with stories, and everybody who does my a book club with me gets a cookbook, one for the leader, and then gets the PDF for the rest of the members. And also I use these when I go to libraries. I have a little contest. Okay, anybody whose birthday begins with whatever I think of at the time. And people love presents. So I always bring a present to the book club. With the Widow of Wall Street, I made one about money. The Discomfort of Money, where I interviewed other people. I've done a lot of books of essays. And that people really like that. I've done one with other authors. What else have I done? When I am at any book club appearance or any kind of appearance, I always mention that I am available for book clubs. I just did something in Tampa, and I had 10 people come up to me and say, "Would you do a book club with me?" Now, do all of them come to me? But I don't know, a lot of them will. From that, I recently got asked to do one in April, an international book club. I don't know what that means. Maybe I have to learn some new languages. That will be hard. But so I think the most important thing I can say is be patient. Also, I advise people to let libraries know you're available for book clubs. That's where you can put yourself forward. Go to your local library and say, "Hi, I'm blah blah blah." And if you have a book club, I would love to maybe be part of it. So those are a few things right off the top.
I think you made some really important points, Randy. And that is number one, um, being very proactive in mentioning it. I can't tell you how many times people would say things like, "Oh, I'm so excited to hear you wrote a book. Oh, I loved it. Oh, that's great." And then I'd say, "Oh, do you know any book clubs or anything like that? I mean, please, anything you can do to help me spread the word." And a lot of times they'll go, "Oh, I'm in a book club," and like they just hadn't occurred to them. And then they're like, "Yeah, oh, well," and I think people are always gonna, like you said, when you're at talking to all your friends and family and spreading the word that you have a book coming out, specifically mention that. I would love to come to your book club. And there's still, even to this day, book clubs who don't realize that authors do this. There's a lot that'll just be like, "Oh, I thought we just meet and discuss. I never even thought that we could have this happen." So putting the idea forward is going to help a lot. And then the same thing with the libraries. Go to your local libraries and get to know you. They're in the surrounding counties as well. They want to support local authors. And a lot of times, if they don't carry your book, they might still go ahead and order it because a lot of times they have a little local library, local author section. Same thing with your local bookstores. They want to support local authors. So I think that was a really important point about making sure people understand that specific idea of book clubs, that you are open to that and you would love to go.
And now that you're saying that, Becky, I'm realizing how very stupid I am. You always learn. So I'm realizing I have a very large newsletter and I have not put in, I can do book clubs and here's the link. So I advise people put it in your book I could have pretended, oh, and put it in your newsletter. Also, I have a separate author page on Facebook than my personal page. And you can put it up there and boost it. Do a little boosted Facebook ad. That's what not an ad, but you can boost your post. I'm now going to do that.
Can I mention one thing, just tagging on to Randy's comment? Doorman Wanted being my first book, I did not have a list of book clubs. Now, just as Randy said, now I do have a long list of book club email addresses, both the organizers, the hosts, as well as anybody who attended that book club. So for the second book, I will be quite mercenary in sending out notices to all of them, not only about the book launch for Rough Cuts, but also my availability for book clubs. So hopefully that will continue to grow the number of invitations to appear.
And if I can write off of that one of the few things I did that wasn't stupid from my first book was keep an Excel spreadsheet of everybody I met with. And it's amazing how many authors do not keep it. So year by year, I had it for each book. And when my book comes out, I always work with my publisher, praying they will do it, and you always do, to send a letter from the editor to all my book clubs because that excites them more than getting a letter just from me. I'm so excited about this
No,
book.
Randy, don't give our authors ideas. Becky doesn't know the
idea.
And what we did with Koehler is, and this was sent out my publicist did it, but we used your name. I think I got your permission, Becky. I'm not exactly positive, whatever. But we send out a link to the leaders, not all the members, but each leader got a link to the book, to an arc, so they could read it and then to build up excitement. And that is like, it's like putting chum in the waters. It's really important.
I want to talk about, so I used to work on websites. I did a lot of author websites, and you guys both mentioned newsletters, and this is something that I tell every author they need to have. You don't have to call it a newsletter if you don't want to. You can just call it an email sign up list. There's lots of free options. There's MailChimp, MailerLite. Randy, I think you're on Substack. Is that your?
I just switched because I never liked MailChimp and I was on Constant Contact, which cost
Okay.
money.
Yeah, yeah.
And I switched over to Substack, and I was kind of afraid that I'd lose people, but I actually didn't.
Okay.
And now it's another way for me to get, because I have two Substacks, and it's a way for me to get more people
Substack's cool
because
because
of
it's
the
kind of like a blog. You can see it all
excuse
there.
me.
That Substack is kind of like a blog, like it's live. You can see your posts, right? Don't you have it's like
Um, Anybody can go see it, yes.
yeah, yeah.
And
Okay.
so people can sign up along the way, but they send out an email
Yeah.
when I do my newsletters, whether it's my author one or my political one, they when you put it live, they send out emails to all your
Yeah.
subscribers. So 3,000 plus people get that newsletter when I send it out once a month.
Yeah. And the great thing about newsletters is, unlike social media, you know exactly who it's going to. You know, you can make lists. So if you've got these leaders of book clubs, make a separate list for them. Yeah, keep all of your contacts. Like I said, social media, you've got the algorithm. So even if you've got 3,000 followers, you might be getting 10 likes on something. So I tell everybody, please do a newsletter. So glad you guys
Can
both.
I add on to that, Danielle, a piece of advice? Because I get a lot of newsletters from authors because I always sign up to check out what other people are doing. It's really important to be interesting in your newsletter,
Mm.
not to just write about you. I just do a real weird combination of my favorite things, like, oh, this is my favorite lipstick of the month, and I have a win a book. I did Glenn as a winning book one month. Find the mistake, win a book. So every month somebody wins a book, and that way I can pretend I put the mistakes in, the grammar mistakes.
You mean find a mistake in your book?
No, not
No,
in
no,
the
in my newsletter.
Becky's like, no, there wouldn't be a mistake. I don't. You
No,
mean
no, find a mistake in
newsletter.
my newsletter, win a book. So
Okay.
people love, everybody loves finding mistakes. And I do a lot of goofy things, and I only do 5% about me, if that.
Okay. So jumping onto that real quick, Jessica Keeners just asked a good kind of nitty-gritty question. So how do you actually collect these things? Do you bring a notebook to the book clubs and write down information? Are you putting it in your phone? Like how are you actually collecting those, Glenn?
Well, I get them when the organizer initially reaches out. Oftentimes, so no, I do not bring a notebook and say, everybody sign up and give me your email address. I get that initial one from the organizer. Oftentimes, the organizer will send out afterwards a thank you note, CCing everybody within the book club. That's how I get the other members' email addresses. So it's a little bit surreptitious, not secretive, but I mean it's a communication there. And the first time I'll reach out to the non-organizers within the book clubs will be that announcement around the next book and the book launch.
I do it a little bit differently. I don't, whether I'm at a book club, wherever I am, I have a sign up sheet that I often forget because I get lost in my own self. And I ask people to sign up for my newsletter. So I have them. And then I say, and three people will win whatever, a candy bar. Usually it's a book. And people love it. And so then at the end of it, I do a randomizer on your phone. I don't know if you ever do that. You can do a random number. So that's how I get the number. They sign up knowing they're signing up for my newsletter. and then I input them.
That's
That's
great.
a great point about offering little prizes. People who won't
Oh
sign
yeah.
up for some things love to sign up for something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and if you do this on your website with the newsletter, it's like a lead magnet. So you could give away something for free. Is what we same concept. It's obviously more fun in person, but
And you can't put people on a newsletter list unless you have their permission,
Mhm.
um, both via Substack, Constant Contact, whatever they are.
I want to real briefly just share both of your websites so people can see how important it is. Look how present book clubs is in Randy's website. So they get a downloadable PDF. She talks about visits, and then boom, she's got her sign up form. And Glenn has events and information here. And you've got, where is your sign up form? It's on, we talked about this guide. You've got your discussion questions here, which was another thing that we were going to ask. I guess they just use your contact form, Glenn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That's how
Um,
they're
all right. So I just wanted to show people real quickly, if you want people to contact you, you got to let them know you're open to it. And they've both got it in the main menu of their website. So,
This is an interesting segue, talking about making things easy for people because we're all lazy and we all want to grab something that's easy. So being obvious about the book club links and then also having questions available. How many times have you been to a book club of your own where people go, okay, well, did everybody like it? What'd you think? And then it's like, okay, now I'll go drink wine. Book clubs really appreciate it when you've done the work for them and have come up with a couple of really open-ended, good discussion questions. When I work with authors on them, I'm always telling them we want to make sure we're not asking questions that people can answer with, no. Like, did you like the character of Sammy? No. And then people go along or something like that. So you want to have these good open-ended questions that'll help lead to discussion. And you both have them and Glenn, you have them on your website. Randy, you have them in your books. Do you also have them on your website?
Yes, if you, when you scroll down, it says click here. Each book has on its own page the website questions and an excerpt from the first chapter.
that's definitely something that you should do if you want to do this. Okay, let's
On
see.
your website, you can kind of keep it evergreen as well, because if you go to some book clubs and you hear some new questions that you think, oh, they had their own question, and let me add that to mine. So that's kind of a great way to do it is keep it on your website as well.
And thanks to Danielle putting my website, I realized, oh man, I got to update my website. I saw a couple of things. So thank you,
Always,
Danielle. I really
always
appreciate
happens.
it.
Yeah.
I was thinking I need to make my website look more like Randy's.
And I need
I
to
was
be
going,
more
Glenn,
inclusive.
where's your sign up form? Oh, it's under contact. Okay. Um, all right. So let's we've talked a lot about book clubs and I'm hesitant to pivot. Let me see real quick.
Danielle, there was a good question in chat that
Yeah.
seemed, or maybe it's gone. Somebody had asked about, did we answer it already? About paying
Oh,
to appear.
yes. I see.
Okay.
It says Marie Claude Gingras have been contacted by email by a lot of book club organizers. They're asking me to pay them $200 to be selected. Are they legit?
Hey, I need to answer this very quickly. There has been a spate of scams going around.
Yes.
Huge scams. I get about five, I don't know if you're getting them, Glenn. I get 5 to 10 a day. Hi, I'm Judy Pretty Person and blah, 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 blah. And they are total scams.
Little
Now,
thing.
if you get something like that, the first thing you do is put it into something that can identify whether it's a scam or not. This is actually a very good use of AI, of ChatGPT. I copied the whole email and I put it in. So if somebody's asking you to pay to be at a book club, be so suspicious.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, that absolutely that would be a huge red flag. I'm sure Randy has never, I have never paid to go to any of these. And also, I'm sure, Randy, you probably receive lots of emails and requests to review the book for pay. That also, huge red flag. I
Yeah,
don't,
anything I get that's asking me for money, I immediately say adios.
I know.
But if you feel that maybe there's some scant bit of something good in it, use artificial intelligence, I'll just say it, to check out whether it's okay or not, because they will give you an answer. And if there isn't a link, and sometimes they put a link on it, and the link goes there, but actually it's not, it's a mock-up. Scam, scam, scam.
Absolutely. One thing I did that I am just remembering, I know it still exists. I don't know if it's as popular since the pandemic, but there are sites like meetup.com, if you've ever heard of that. And I'm sure there's many others as well, where it's kind of like these online forums for groups to register to reach out and meet other people, kind of like a and so I had gone for when my book came out, I actually went on and found all the local book clubs that had signed up on meetup.com in a certain radius of where I lived, and then just sent the organizers an offer to come and appear. And I think I got 3 or 4 book clubs, but that was pre-pandemic. And there were a couple that said, "Oh, I get so inundated with these types of things. If you want to pay to have your book, whatever, we would," and I was like, "Yeah, no, thanks. I get it. I get you're inundated. I don't expect anything. Thanks for taking my email. Bye-bye." But it's just another thing you consider that there may be some places online that help kind of curate these adult meeting website things.
Good idea.
I have been asked by meetups to local ones. I haven't gone after them. That's a good idea, but I have been asked by them.
Becky, you reminded me of something else I just wanted to mention very quickly. We're talking specifically about book clubs here, but at least in the downtown community, there are these condominium buildings, and I referenced it earlier, but there are a lot of social clubs that are simply looking for somebody to come in and present. And I have been asked uh, 6, 8, 10 times by some of these condo social clubs to come in and talk about the writing process
Mhm.
or the experience of publishing a book. So, not so much talking specifically about Doorman Wanted, but it comes up. Um, but the process of publishing, that's another avenue into getting fairly large groups in front of you. And one of the groups specifically wanted to hear about the Koehler process, the publishing process. And they loved hearing about the cover selection. They got a big kick out of that. I was able to show them, in my case, the 5 covers that were proposed for Doorman Wanted and turned it into a little game within the presentation. Which one would you choose? So it's more than just book clubs that are interested in hearing from authors.
And just
That's
to go on that, senior centers is another one.
Yeah.
I have done so many senior centers. And do they buy tons of books? Not really. Do they buy some books? Yes. Do they buy books for their children and for presents? Yes. And is it a good thing to do for your soul and your heart? Yes.
and do they talk? Yes, they
Yes,
tell.
yes, they do. Yes, they do. And do you listen and smile? Yes.
But they also spread the word, and that even if they don't buy a book, they'll tell their friends, "Oh, I went to the greatest little talk the other night and had this author," and that can lead to other opportunities. I would also throw out there VFWs.
Hmm.
VFWs are very large, groups, and like you said, a lot of places nowadays are looking for just something different. And if you are prepared to talk about something, even, adjacently related to your book, where you get to mention it, but maybe it's not an actual book talk, they're happy to have you come in, and it'll lead to some sales, and it may lead to some book clubs, and it may lead to other things. And that's kind of how you cast a wide net.
Yeah, and in that instance, Becky, for those of us who are shy and reaching out, who might be shy and reaching out to book clubs, that's an easy reach out. It's just here's some information. I do discussions on the publishing process. Might your VFW club be interested in that type of presentation? And that's a more comfortable ask, I think, for some folks, more so than these book clubs where maybe it's a little bit more personal of an ask.
And if you give a, and I would always give a book along with it.
Mm.
Yeah, I would never go to a place like a VFW and not say, here's about my book, and here's one that you can look at. It's just something that I like to do because people, once they have it in their hand, they're more likely to open it up
Mm.
and take a look. There are also, just to warn, oh, by the way, I've also been paid by places like senior centers who have a stipends. And, for $200, oh man, I'll travel almost anywhere, what the heck. But I will warn authors also, there are groups out there that are starting businesses where they promise you they will get you book clubs. And they ask book clubs to pay them,
Mm.
Mm.
and then they don't pay you, they just get you book clubs. So they're basically asking the book clubs to pay to get an author. It's not like a speaking thing. It's little book clubs, and I would be very wary of those. I had somebody who came all around Boston, and a lot of authors signed up. I did not, and they just really got taken for a ride. The biggest authors got a few, and that was it.
Mm. So always try to, I guess, meet with the leaders of the groups personally if you can. I mean, not personally, but not don't have a middleman, maybe in this case, is what you're saying.
Well, if somebody's saying, give me a couple $100 and I will go out and your book will be on our site, I would be very suspicious until you got some references.
Yeah.
People are always trying to make money off of us, right, Glenn? I don't know if you have found this.
I am shocked by that, but yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's so often getting so many requests all the time. We will help make you a multimillionaire if you just give us X.
Well, so pivoting back to these events, these are kind of like book club adjacent events, we were talking about, like a senior center or a church or all kinds of stuff who are happy to have people come in and talk about something. A lot of times they'll say, oh, well, it's not really a book talk, but you can talk about your book and you can sell them here.
Yeah.
So that Jenny Pie has a question about, well, when you do that, who sells your books at your events? Do you bring your own books and sell them using like Squarespace or some other method? Or do you send the attendees to bookstores if you don't sell them directly at the event? How do you guys usually handle that?
That's a really good question. And I am not comfortable. I've been invited to home events where folks will bring in friends, neighbors, and want me to sell books at that event. I'm not that comfortable with bringing in a pile of books and taking money and exchanging. So I say I will be more than happy to do that, but I would like you to contact this bookstore near you, independent bookstore, and allow them to come in and handle all sales. I've done that on a few occasions, and never has the independent bookstore said no. If they can sell 10, 12, 15, 20, whatever the number is, copies, then they're more than happy to do that. I always allow them to give a little sales pitch, a 1 minute sales elevator pitch, to that gathered audience to let them know about their independent bookstore and invite people into it for other book sales.
I have, if it's a big event, I'll always have an independent book seller come. If there aren't any around, if it's a small event, I learned to have some books in the trunk of my car because invariably they say, "Oh, don't you have any books to sell?" So I'll like, "Oh, I have some. Huh? I have some in my car." And I'll do it with cash, and I bring envelopes that I have my name on, and I say, "I trust you," and I give them an envelope. I say, "Just send me a check." If they, because I don't want to deal with the. I always screw up, or I do Venmo. But if I know I'm going to be selling books, I have no problem selling books, but I don't want to be the one to sell them. So I ask either the person who's managing it to sell them, or I schlep my husband, who's always happy to do it for me because he's a doll. You know that, Becky. You met him. He's a good guy. I have brought my children along to send. I have brought a friend along who has a book coming out who wants to get to know them. So I will have somebody else do it because I'm signing. So I will sell. So Jenny, we can talk about this. I know Jenny, but you get used to it. It's a little weird at first, and you're not going to bring an independent bookstore with every, for me, with every small book club because it could be nobody who wants. They might all have them. At libraries, I've also sold books. They're happy to let you sell books in libraries.
Well, and now with new technologies like Venmo and Zelle and Cash App, that's made it really easy to pay. But the little square things that people can run their credit card through, those are pretty easy to set up on your phone. So it's not as bad as it was in the old days when you're doing it all with cash and you're trying to make change and all that kind of stuff. But
And make it very easy. I make it very easy. I set the price something that I make sure I have fives, or my husband does. And honest, the check thing, people always they always come through.
that's great.
Wow,
I
we
know
could
we're so
we could go
honest in
on for
Boston.
another hour. You guys have been just organically going with, I didn't even think about that last question. And now I'm like, well, duh, you got to think about, ultimately you're doing it. Randy, you've made some really great points that it is about giving back and how you feel about it, talking about charities um, but ultimately, what does every author want? They want to sell books. So obviously that's a great question. How do you use book clubs to sell books? So we didn't get to some things, but you know what? If you want to talk about social media or anything, we've got lots of other webinars where we've talked about that with our authors. We didn't get to book fairs and festivals, but that could be a whole other webinar on its own. So, I think this has been a really great conversation. You guys have said a lot of things that I didn't even consider. So I think our authors got a lot of tips from both of you. Becky, you want to add anything, or was there anything else that we missed?
Uh, Really, really quick, I'd love to address Dominic Murray's question about merchandise. Have you invested in merch to sell online or to bring with you to any? Randy, you kind of touched on the cookbook idea, but anything else? Have you guys actually spent money on having things made?
The biggest waste I've ever done with money has been tchotchkes. Little things like stuff related. I do for my launch. I buy a few things that are really connected, like peace signs I did for this. But overall, I have found that tchotchkes don't do much. What people like is our books, and so this, and I bring other friends' books to
Mm.
give away.
Glenn?
I have not. I did something special for the launch. I had a huge sheet cake in the likeness. Oh, we lost Randy. There she is.
Nope.
Huge sheet cake in the likeness of the cover of Doorman Wanted, but that's not the gist of the question. I have not. I've considered it, but have not done it.
I do this. This is a recipe that comes directly from the book. It's a postcard. People love, they want something. So this is a little bit about my book on the back, and the front is an explanation of why this recipe. So those are very simple things that you can do. It's something they can hold on to.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
I like making things. I like Canva.
I know. I heard that you gave, what was it, banana bread or like Glenn, there's baked goods going around. I mean, I
I
heard.
yeah, I made a lot of banana bread using two recipes, the old recipe and the new recipe. So just the healthy recipe that they were forced to do, the kids, and then the unhealthy recipe that they came back to. Neuroses helps, right, Glenn? Being really neurotic and helps.
It comes with the territory.
You gotta have fun with it. Yeah.
You do, that's it exactly, Daniel. You gotta have fun with it.
All right. Well, we are 1 minute to 5, so I think this has been great. You guys have anything else in tw 10 seconds you feel like you didn't get to? Because I feel like we covered everything.
Make a little thing also to when you go to bookstores and libraries, so people, if they're shy, they can go and read it, and you can keep
Okay.
reading it over and over.
That makes sense if they don't want to approach the author. That's a good idea.
Hmm.
Yes. Glenn, any
I
parting words?
My parting words are I always learn from Randy. I am honored to have been on this call with you.
That's great. Well, both of you keep us posted on all the new things you learn from your book clubs, and we'll keep spreading the word too.
And Cola rocks. We love you.
Thank you. We love
Thanks so much, you guys.
Yeah, this video will be up on our website and we'll send it out via our newsletter as well. So thank you guys again and have a good rest of your week. All right.
Bye, Glenn. Bye, Glenn.